let's start off with a little bit of the hype. Like I said, a year ago we were here and we were trying to figure out what AI was good for. 6 months ago, it was like, oh my God, it's going to do everything. It's going to replace everything. And I've fallen in love with an AI. Now, kind of feels a little bit like, I don't know, the bloom is off the rose, a little bit like, maybe it's not as good. Are we in the middle of a crash? Dylan, are we in a crash with AI?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think everything is happening at exponentials. I think stuff like Sora is going to just blow people's mind the same way image generation did. It might feel that way because of how marketing works, but that technology is progressing along faster and faster in a nice linear curve, in my opinion.
Yep. Roberto, what do you think?
There might be some hyperbole out there, but we're not.
AB, right?
Yeah, just a little bit. But here's the thing. We're not in a bubble at all when it comes to AI technology. And the implications with regard to economies of scale they should be exciting and terrifying.
Yeah, Renee, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the industry is just maturing. And this happens a lot with any new type of technology. And so I think we're over a little bit of the hype cycle, and we're over just companies slapping well, we're not quite over this, but right now there's still a lot of companies that are just slapping AI onto something. So I think we're still kind of going through that, but the industry is just maturing and we're figuring out how to actually use it and implement it as part of workflows.
Don't knock that sticker, because that sticker is helping my stock portfolio. So
well, no, but I do think we're in a little bit of a hype cycle right here. I think that we see a bunch of companies coming out, putting like a thin layer of AI on top of it and raising 8 figures, rounds. And so there will be some excess wrung out of the system. It's natural. Right. A hype cycle from Gartner. This happens when you see all those stories about AI's dead. Don't buy it. There's great things it can do, but there's things that it can't do right now also. We'll talk about some of that as well. So real quickly, just to level set, you guys are all smarter than a 5th grader, right?
Questionable.
Maybe.
Okay, explain AI to a 5th grader.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of like having a friend that can give you all of the answers to a test, but they may be all of the wrong answers. You have to fact check them. Yeah, I think honestly it's kind of like having a little bit of a frenemy. You can use it for good and for bad. So you can spend less time on the things you don't like doing to spend more time on the things that you do.
Kind of trust but verify. Roberto?
AI is like having a very good friend similar to Michael Ross with a photographic memory that has an array of knowledge that may or may not be useful, and you just have to make sure they didn't dip into the tequila before you asked.
All right, keep the tequila away from your AI model.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dylan.
Metaphorical. I would say that AI is not software. AI is a tool that learned to make a decision. It's not programmed. It's not prearranged. It's not a decision tree. It's the first time really on earth we've had something learn, and it teaches us.
Yeah, I mean, and basically, for those of you who remember statistics in college, it's a really, really massive statistics engine, right? It's predicting what words to use or what images to create. It's fascinating. Let's move on a little bit and talk about what you guys are doing with AI in your workflow today. Renee, I'll start with you. What AI tools are you using as a creator today to, I don't know, make better content, make it easier, or I don't know, play games? I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, my go-to is AI that's already integrated into my existing workflow. So instead of just finding new tools and technology, there's a lot of AI that's being incorporated into things like Adobe Creative Suite, which I use. And so that's kind of throughout. I also use Kajabi, Descript, and full disclosure, I've done some work with Kajabi and Descript.
You want to talk about what Kajabi and Descript are, if people don't know?
Absolutely. So I'll start with Descript. It was really one of the first companies that allowed you to upload a video, transcribe it, and then edit it like a Word doc. So if you want to delete a part of your video, you basically just highlight the text in a document and hit delete, and it would edit that part of the video. They've since added a lot of different AI technology in terms of being able to learn your voice. And so if you're able to train it on your own voice, you can type things out and then have it actually say something in your own voice. And it works, in my opinion, incredibly well if you're using it for just a little bit of audio, not a full video, something like that. And then Kajabi, just to quickly describe that, Kajabi is a tool that helps with basically to manage your creator business. So if you want to release a membership site or sell courses, do email marketing, you can do all that within Kajabi, and they have AI tools to allow you to create courses, also help do scripting, and then also you can take like one piece of content and turn it into 40 different pieces of content. So you can take a video, turn it into a blog, and different things like that.
Yeah, the repurposing workflow.
Yeah, Roberto, what are you using today in your workflow?
Oh Lord, so many. We'll go through the short list.
Just a couple of highlights because we can talk about more.
We'll give a taste. So with Premiere Pro from Adobe, I actually run through the Adobe Sensei technology that they developed for AI transcription first, and then I also am able to generate AI captions from that as well that then become video or animated captions if I want them to be baked in, or I could just use them to export SRT files so that I can upload that to YouTube or wherever else and have closed captioning. It's also capable of doing that in other languages. The other thing that I can use it for also though is I use it in my video editing workflow because I can now detect all pauses. And then the AI will go through and it will actually do ripple deletes throughout that, which can do all of my rough cutting for me. Then I can use its Adobe Audio Enhance feature and go back and get studio quality mastered audio for my A-roll for the talking head portion. So it reduces what would be on a 20-minute end-to-end video, the editing turnaround on that, what would have normally been an hour of work between Premiere Pro and Audition, and then also paying to go to rev.com and get my captions done by a human. It's actually able to turn about an hour and a half of work into a less than 10-minute process, which is amazing. That's phenomenal on that side. So I have that.
And then the question gets begged, what do you do with the extra 50 minutes or hour that you have back?
Oh, well, in that case, what I get to do is I get to be a little bit more thoughtful about certain aspects of sound design,
so it can
graphics.
Make better videos.
So it means that with the recouped time that would normally spend on the agonizing task of mechanical work, I can now put more of the energy into the creative process that actually produces the vision that I have for the video and work more on that. So that's just one aspect of that. From a practical workflow standpoint, I use Opus Clip, who I'm partnered with, to then take said video, and then I'm able to extrapolate and repurpose multiple videos for my cross-platform, schedule them both in the vertical shorts format, but then also with widescreen clips that I can use and repurpose for syndication. And so I'm able to do that. That's through AI as well. Then what's another one of my favorites? What I can also do, by the way, is I can actually, for a podcast, love my podcast workflow stuff. So I do a lot of live streaming with StreamYard. Also goes ahead and produces AI transcripts as well. Here's the funny thing about with that. I also can sit there and I can actually take my transcript into ChatGPT with a custom prompt that I wrote to extrapolate accurate show notes from my transcript, and then use that and then have those, as well as have episode summaries both in short form and long form. And then I also can get it to generate quotables from my guest that I can then use to make graphical quotables that I can use in other platforms.
Very cool. Good stuff. Opus Clip, by the way, is over there afterwards. You should definitely go check them out. I love their stuff too. Awesome. How about you, Dylan? You both use AI, but also explain AI for people. So talk a little bit now about what you're doing, but if you want to add an explanation, you're welcome.
Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel. It's called Dylan Curious, and I talk about AI, sort of like Matt Wolf, but smaller. But I am paying for 8 different AI tools, and I'll list them out just so you guys know. After working with a whole bunch, these are the kind of ones that have survived. I always start my research using ChatGPT, so it's $20 a month. Everybody's used it, but Gemini, Claude, both other good options. And I pre-prompt it with something that I've already written that describes who I am, what I care about. I'll throw in huge, long context window papers, research that would just be agonizing to read, and let it find the most important parts to me. After that process, I film a video. So I'm helping with scripting. And then there's a tool called Gling, and I'm not affiliated with any of these things, but Gling is very similar to what you're using with Adobe Premiere. It takes out all the ums and ahs. If I say the same sentence 2 or 3 times in a similar way, it will take the first 2 takes out. So the nice thing about it is that if you're scripting, you just say something over and over again, and then the very last one is going to be the one that survives. And then you have to tweak it a little bit. It's not always perfect, but I use it to save probably 80-90% of time on my first edit. After that, for sound design, everybody's been using this tool called Suno, right? Like you guys might have heard that that's the best way to text prompt into audio. But as of like 2 days ago, I think this new tool called Udio is even better. I'm making a video about it now. It totally took me by surprise, but Udio can actually generate full like comedic timing, comedy scripts, and so much more than just music. And there's a lot of use cases there that you might see popping up. So those are the two models, those Suno and Udio. When I get my video in, I do B-roll with the traditional diffusion models, so DALL-E and Midjourney. Midjourney, if you want to keep a character's face on multiple image generations, but also I'll take that into another tool called Runway ML, and that will give me a little bit of animation. Sometimes I can add little like slides or prompts that just give it kind of a little bit of a motion graphics look, and I've kind of customized the specific sort of paper cut craft style look, but you guys just find something that kind of works for you to keep that unity. And then at the end of the day, I throw it in one more tool, which is called Submagic. There's another one called Captions, which just help with the short form kind of captions and things like that. So.
Okay, I want to talk about ChatGPT for a minute. How many of you are using ChatGPT regularly? How many people pay for it? Okay, just a couple. Now, I pay for it. You do. So let's start with you since you talked about paying for it. Why pay for it instead of using the free version?
Because you just use it at scale. I mean, it's just about how much you use it. If you're using it occasionally, it's not that big a deal. But when it really comes down to it, GPT-4 is a trillion parameter model, and GPT-3 is a 150 billion parameter model, and there just is real intelligence difference in there. Now, if you
GPT-3 is the free version, 4 is the paid version.
Right.
You probably all knew that, but
yeah. So I mean, it's just about if do you want to hire somebody who's okay or do you want to hire somebody who's smart? It depends on what the job is. If you need it, you need it.
So Roberto, why do you pay for it?
Cheapest fractional workforce of all time. Cheapest fractional workforce of all time. So for $20 a month, I'm using the best AI model. I've already made myself hundreds of customized prompts, and stuff like that. I share that with my community. And the other thing with it is the way I use it is I use role, task, goal, and then I give it context. And that's one of like 10 frameworks that I came up with for prompt engineering. And the way that ends up working is the role I give it is if I wrote a job description for somebody in terms of their roles and responsibilities. So I actually treat it like a fractional workforce. I treat it as if I'm building out individual GPTs to serve the function of a task of a higher level team. And as a result of that, I have these co-pilots, these creative co-pilots. They're not really there in my estimation to generate things because I'm the source of origin. I'm the source of origin. I'm also the source of context. They're there to then extrapolate, amplify, modify, and add to my work in the same way that a freelance workforce or even a staffer would if I were working with them remotely. And so when I speak to the AI, I treat it like a remote worker that is essentially a fractional employee within my enterprise.
So you're using GPTs. How many people know what a GPT is? Let's talk about that for a minute because I think it's a really important and understood. Whatever. ChatGPT could have come up with a better word. But anyway, a GPT is a way, the thing about ChatGPT and most of these models is they're brain dead. You tell them something, then you go away and you come back. They've forgotten everything you told them. But with a GPT, you can actually say what you said. You can give it a role. You can give it a task, give it a goal, put it in a GPT. And then when you come back to it, it knows it again. So it gets you that much further. I use one curating events like this where I give it a bunch of my old session descriptions and titles. I tell it it's a great session description and title writer. Then I give it a session notes and it comes up with descriptions and titles. Did I describe that well? Who wants to describe it better? Go ahead, Dylan.
Well, let me just throw in one thing is I think that if you're on this panel again next year, you're going to hear a word called agentic workflows quite a bit. You don't hear it much yet, but that is the point.
Agentic?
Yeah, agentic
workflows.
Okay, so, and what agentic is referring to is agents, multiple agents. So you call them GPTs. They're custom prompts for a system like ChatGPT. And it has a character, it has an understanding of who it is, what it does. But in the future, there will be software developed by, say, 10 GPTs. One will act like a CTO, one will act like a CMO, one will code it, and then it will send it to a QA will send it back to the coder will send it to the marketer. But these are all going to be individual GPTs. They're going to be individual agents is the more general term. So agentic workflows are where you have an entire company, an entire system, all working together.
Versus my mercenaries, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Renee.
So we're all losing our jobs? Is that what you're saying?
Whole companies are getting replaced.
Well,
Yeah.
but the point is with ChatGPT, with GPT-4, is if you pay for it, you get access to this and you can build your own. Some can be simple, some can be more complex. Renee, talk about why you pay.
Yeah, so I pay because I use it every single day. So the $20 a month is a no-brainer for me. You get access to the latest version available, and each time they release a new version or an update.
They did a couple days ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So each time they release a new version, it's typically substantially better than the last. So there are different features that are available in it. So you can have multimodal, so you can access DALL-E. So if you want to create an image, you don't have to use something separate as if you're just working with text. So for me, it makes complete sense to be able to pay for that. I want to layer on top of what Roberto said in terms of how you structure your prompts. I do something quite similar. I basically play Mad Libs with my ChatGPT prompts. And I think it's really important when you're using something like ChatGPT to give it context. And so I always give it a role. So similar to how you're giving yours a role that's a certain type of employee, for me, I say, you are blank. You're a creator economy expert leading a session at NAB. So give it some context.
I have been replaced.
Never.
So give it some context and then ask what you want and what format. So if you want a summary of something or if you want a bulleted list, make sure that you're giving that context, and then you're going to get a much better results as part of it.
I'll just throw one more thing in there too. I don't know if you've tried this, but also if you don't know what you want from these systems, you can ask them to ask you. Say, I want to build software. You're the CEO. Tell me what you need from me to do a good job. And it can actually go in reverse too.
Here's a prompt for you guys to actually help extrapolate not knowing what to ask. You can work backwards from what you might want to achieve and said, if I wanted to achieve this and I wanted to be able to ask the best questions possible on the way to achieving that goal, what are the 20 most practical questions that I could ask? Then you can, generate those questions, and then you can ask even then from it's like, fantastic. And can you elaborate and can you answer some of these? And then you could go even from there. And so you could use it really frankly to reverse engineer any of your own goals. And you can use this, to some degree to train you up and to make you more knowledgeable.
All right. So have we convinced you guys to subscribe to ChatGPT 4?
Not sponsored. Hashtag.
We're not making any money at this, but, we all use it. The last thing I want to say on this, and I want to move on, because we've got a lot of tools to talk about, is you talked about DALL-E and the image stuff, and it's not as what I cannot overemphasize how important I find that, because I used Midjourney for a while and I stopped. I've used Stable Diffusion. It may not be as good as those. On some cases, they could do a better job, but you can actually have a conversation with it. It gives you an image and you can say, oh, do this, do this. So having a conversation as you try and get images can be really, really helpful.
And can I suggest that a lot of it for images, a lot of you are trying to make it do too much work on images, and it's not going to be, say as good as working with someone as a human being on that. But I will tell you this, use it for layout design. This will blow your mind in terms of layout design, layout inspiration, and storyboarding.
Yeah. And last thing I will give you on images, and I was like, almost today years old when I learned this. If you create an image in DALL-E 3 in ChatGPT 4 and the image shows up on screen, you click on it, it goes up bigger. There's a little eye up in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on that eye, you can see how it took your prompt and rewrote it into a prompt that it fed into it. Why that's important is then you can copy that prompt and then tweak it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, pro tip.
Really cool.
Good.
I just learned this. Okay. What's it not good for? Who wants to say something that they tried, they thought it'd be good for, and it just failed?
It's not good at creating infographics. It's not good at creating anything that has to be visually text-based. It's not good at typography. There is one tool whose name escapes me that Dylan probably knows that actually is good at typography when it comes to generative AI. But most visual generative AI tools absolutely suck and are atrocious at infographics and typography. I do recommend for infographics, though, they can be good for layout and inspiration.
Dylan, you want to take that on infographics or in words?
Good
with words.
It doesn't do fingers. It doesn't.
It's better with fingers.
Yeah,
that's now.
True. Yeah, it can do some things.
Midjourney 6 is decent there.
Yeah, that's true. And it can keep character faces. There's not a lot that it can't do until you just move to the next modality. So right now it doesn't do video, well, and then you just see everything kind of moving into other spaces. But I don't know. It does so much stuff. It can read brain scans now. It can do all sorts of things that don't even seem like tools like this could go. So I'm hard pressed to find things it doesn't do well.
What does it not do that you've tried?
Yeah, well, it does do this, but it doesn't do it well. So I think that when it comes to images specifically, if you are stuck and you don't have something in your mind of exactly what you want that image to look like, I think it's really good at that. So if you give it something general, it can come up with something really interesting. But if you have a very specific image of what you want and you're looking for someone with a yellow blazer and, they have purple hair and they're wearing glasses and they're a certain age and you put all of that in, you're probably not going to get what you actually want. It may take some time, but I think if you want something like super specific, I still have struggled to get exactly what I want. And I can find myself getting really frustrated going back and forth until eventually I'm like, no, I'll just do something a bit more general.
It's only as good as the source material and context that it's given. That's why I keep saying it's an enhancement. That's why I don't like the concept of it really being overly emphasized of it being generative. I think its real value is scale. I believe that, for example, if I go and I get a freelancer from Fiverr, let's say do character design for me now with Midjourney 6 and its ability to have consistency and continuity there, I can still pay an artist to do real artwork to come up with something that we craft together that is unique. Then I can use the AI tool to scale it and add different dimensions of context. Maybe that artist is good at character design, but they're not good at action per se, or they're not good at backgrounds. And so guess what? Now I can take this thing and I can then layer on top of it and use the AI to enhance what was already there instead of trying to come up with something completely new, which I think it's actually not as good at nearly as a human. Same thing with writing, like why I would feed it my book as its context and to try to anticipate me and cater to my taste and my whims, so on and so forth. That's going to be better feeding it my whole book than it asking me 20, 50 questions trying to figure out my personality. Everything is only as good as its source material, and that would hold true if you hire a human being as well. The materials that you give and supply your workforce to work and build on top of are still the ultimate foundation, which is why I still feel we as humans are not replaced by the AI, because I think it can enhance what we do. And I think that the complement that we're better together than standing alone. I think that we're better as cyborgs than as purely technical, machines or organic organisms. I think techno-organic combos are going to be better.
Oh, yeah, cyborgs. No, I don't know what to say. Cyborgs are like a whole thing.
One last thing on images, just, we've been talking a lot about DALL-E 3, which is inside ChatGPT 4, which you have to pay for. But there is a free way to get it. It's called Bing Image Creator, and everybody's probably shied away from Bing. You're like, Google's better than Bing. And Microsoft keeps on shoving it at you, but go to Bing Image Creator, use the DALL-E 3 engine in ChatGPT 4, but it won't let you have a conversation with it to make better images, but you can take advantage of that model. Also, Leonardo AI is a great front end for Stable Diffusion, which does some good stuff as well. It's also free up to a certain level. I don't know, any other free image tools that you guys like?
Well, it's not free, but there is AI that's being built into tools that you may already have a subscription for.
Canva and things
like Canva or Adobe. Yeah.
Yep. All right. I'm going to go through a bunch of different categories, and we're going to talk to these guys about what they like, what they don't like. Some they've already talked about, but ideation, production, editing, dubbing, packaging, distribution, analytics, community management, monetization, marketing, back office, accounting, other business functions. Anything else?
AI dubbing.
Dubbing. Did I not say dubbing? All right, dubbing.
I don't know if you did.
Or 3D.
Let's start with dubbing. Would you say 3D?
Yeah, just 3D creation.
All right, dubbing. Let's do dubbing first. Dubbing. Who wants to take it? What's a good tool? Go ahead, Roberto.
So Ditto Dubbing. I'm not affiliated. I don't have a share in the company. or anything like that. But ditto dubbing is something I'm looking at. It was introduced to me by Daryl Eves, and it's because it was used initially before they hired an in-house team by Mr. Beast to scale his YouTube channel through localization. So he ended up building multiple YouTube channels at first, and then YouTube consolidated his subscribership, which is why now he's about to pass T-Series as the largest YouTube channel of all time. I think they have over 250,000 subscribers now, 250 million subscribers. But part of the growth was using the Netflix concept of, if you guys remember when Squid Game came out, and what did it do? It premiered in every single language for every single country, localized. And this is incredibly powerful. And it's going to change the entire scope and dimension of content creation, and even how we start to think of content creation. We're not going to only think about it, for example, for us as U.S., English language speakers, we're going to start thinking about some levels of neutrality within our content, knowing that it can translate, over to those other language. YouTube and Google are doing their A-Loud, which is going to be the free version, but you are going to have some restrictions on distributing that to other platforms if you use their version. The reason I want to use ditto dubbing is, for I saw it gives me the things I care about: speed and accuracy, and it can handle these multiple languages, and it can also it has some more context to it. Even if you were a non-English speaker and you're, say, a German speaker, it keeps that German twang in the speaker's voice for authenticity when translating them to English. So it's going to allow a lot of people in the foreign markets to enter the U.S. market, get U.S. CPM and RPM rates in the ad revenue, things like that. So I think it's massively transformative. Ditto dubbing with dittodubbing.com, it is fast and accurate, but it is not cheap. That's its one caveat.
So the thing that when I think about dubbing, what we learned when YouTube came out in the early days was that really creativity is evenly distributed around the world. You don't have to be in LA or New York or DC or Mumbai or Sydney or London. But what's going to happen with dubbing, with AI dubbing? And it's not just the voice and the dubbing in the languages. It's also the face changes so that you look like you're saying it, is that it democratizes the ability to reach anybody in the world. So the next big YouTube star globally could be in Indonesia. Maybe doesn't know a lick of English or German or French or whatever, but they could create content and truly reach a global audience. That's why I like that. Anything else on dubbing, Renee?
Yeah, I just want to say that's actually one of the most exciting things about AI is the ability to connect with other people, especially if you don't speak their language. And so I think that's actually a really powerful thing. I don't personally use an AI tool for dubbing at the moment just because I haven't found a tool that I think is really accurate, and there's a lot that goes into dubbing, and you can accidentally say something that you don't mean to say. So I just am very cautious about that, especially if it's dubbing into a language that I don't know. This is what Jim calls my hovercraft is filled with eels.
My hovercraft is filled with eels. How many people know that reference? Honey Python. Thank you. Go ahead, Dylan.
I just think of it as a spectrum. There are tools like 11 Labs right now that just take voices and they can turn it into another language. But then you see the experimental stuff coming out of YouTube's in-house teams that make the mouth and the lips really move so you can't tell. And then I think about it in a spectrum over the next couple of years. There'll probably also be, like, if something in India is created and it's funny and it gets ported over to the United States, then the kind of AI that we'll probably see in a couple of years will also probably change the background to make it look more like an American city, maybe even change anything from like hair to skin tone to background and create, I guess, these things that are the same in concept but are completely different or individualized, maybe all the way down to you individually as a user on YouTube. So it's just dubbing is also the customization.
That's
story.
Interesting to me. That's interesting to me. The implications there, that is both exciting and terrifying.
Yeah, customized content for everybody. We'll try and get to that in a minute. Okay. You mentioned 3D also. Talk about 3D for a minute.
Yeah, so once again, we're kind of in that same space where we are with Sora and video. I wouldn't say that there's any truly great 3D modeling, like text to 3D modeling system out there yet. NVIDIA's got one, which slips my mind right now, but you can use it and it will generate, say, like a frog dancing on a mushroom or something. Like you'll get something like that. And given to a sculptor who understands how to work with 3D, they will save time. They will be closer to their final product. And soon enough, I think we'll be to a point where, kind of in the same diffusion story that it is useful.
Do you think we'll ever get somewhere very reasonable over the next 20 years with text to 3D and then combining that with 3D printing to really go from ideation to actual tangible prototype
models. Wow.
Yeah, well, because you
thought to thing prototyping.
Yeah, because you put 20 years on it, anything can happen, I think. But yeah, there is a big jump going from the digital world to the real world that I think material science has to kind of get involved. So there'll be a slower 3D print to real world kind of thing happening. But yeah, eventually I feel like that all gets worked out.
All right, let's go down this list. Ideation. You talked about storyboarding with GPT-4. What are some tools that you've used for ideation, coming up with ideas about what to create, what to do? Renee, what do you think? What do you throw out an example that's not ChatGPT?
Yeah, so I do use ChatGPT a lot for this. vidIQ has a good tool that, vidIQ is mainly a tool for YouTube videos. There's analytics that are behind it, helping you figure out what content works well and what doesn't. But they have an AI tool that allows you to come up with, just with a couple simple keywords, come up with a title, a script for your video, and some audio so that will actually narrate your video. And I don't use it as like a final piece for a video, but I may use it to spark some ideas. And I've gotten some pretty good results from that.
Cool. Ideation?
Yeah, so because I need to produce videos every day and it's like a complete grind and I never want to burn out, I actually don't try to use it too much in the very beginning step because I want to find something that genuinely interests me just so I can get through it and not just do it and serve the algorithm. But once I have established that, to take what I think I want to write about and say, give me a bunch of variations of this for titles, think about like what kind of thumbnails might be helpful. I'll ask ChatGPT. Actually, Gemini just barely came out, but Gemini 1.5, if you guys sign up for it now.
Google.
Yeah, it has a 1 million context window, which means you can actually upload your entire final video, these huge things, and say, how do you think this is going to perform? Do you think I should edit something out of it? And it's, the video I just uploaded yesterday to 1.5 Gemini, I was wearing this t-shirt and it was an overfitted t-shirt. It's like a machine learning joke. You wouldn't really get it probably unless you're in this scene. And I asked it, what's funny about my shirt? And is this going to resonate with my audience? And it was a little wrong, I think, but the fact that we were even having that conversation from a full-length video with multiple cuts and no direct shot of it, is really just incredible. And I can see that closing really soon, that gap.
Well, Roberto, anything on your side?
I'm testing Spotter AI. It's in beta, and it's really impressive. It's really good. I think it's great for a certain level of market research levels of ideation and trying to really understand your audience avatar and what they're already potentially gravitating through to, since it leverages the YouTube API. So it has an understanding to some degree at scale of, well, what are people already giving attention to in your niche, so on and so forth. So I really like that. I like for ideation a tool called oneof10.com. I think that one is really powerful. It's an upcoming tool. Again, I have no affiliation with either of these. And then I would say that also look into for help with script writing structure from an AI standpoint, ideation, a tool called TubeSpanner. TubeSpanner.
TubeSpanner.
Yeah, they're not as well known as some of the other contemporaries out there. But I would say in the ideation realm, I like those a lot. I already mentioned ChatGPT for layout design and storyboarding. Right. But I do think that Midjourney is excellent if you prompt it correctly or you get a good prompt like, some of the ones I developed when it comes to things like primary example. You could actually use it to help you with set design for your videos, which is something people do not think about conceptually. Even examples of color palette, dynamic lighting, your RGB lighting. You could also use it for posing and modeling, which could also help you with thumbnail ideation. Instead of trying to come up with your whole thumbnail, you can use it for looking just conceptually at your thumbnail to look at positioning and posing and layout and things of that nature, along with the dynamic lighting, and then go, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I want to recreate with my photography. Let me take that to my team for my cinematography, my photography, my set design, my key grip lighting, all those things. So I think that it's one of those things that can allow you, as far as the visual side. Some people, who here has ever worked with a client and had the client say, I'll know it when I see it? Anybody, show of hands, who's gone through that personal hell? Clients from hell unite. Yeah. So now you can actually get through that process of I'll know it when I see it a lot faster, with a lot less pain and a lot less hours and a lot less sunk cost.
Okay. So you've done your ideation. You've got your story. You know what you're going to do. You get out there to do the production. what are the tools that you've used to help you with production? Who wants to start?
I can take that.
Go ahead, Renee.
So I think that Sony has actually done a really good job of implementing a lot of AI technology in their cameras. So I've used a bunch of different types of cameras. I moved from Canon to Panasonic over to Sony. So now I'm using a bunch of different Sony cameras, but they have built in a lot of smart automatic functionality. So before I used to always set everything to manual so that I can dial everything in specifically how I want it. But now with the smart functionalities of Sony, which has AI built into it, it's pretty good right out of the box, and I don't have to actually tinker with it and mess with it for every individual thing that I'm setting up. So that's one of my favorites.
That's pretty cool. Sony cameras.
Yeah.
Production?
There's a noise remover that Adobe offers for free. You can upload like a raw audio file, and it takes away a lot of the hiss and hum and kind of emptiness in a room. If you have echo, makes it sound a bit more full. And production wise, I'm using Midjourney to animate. I'm using Final Cut as my base. I'm using exporting pieces into CapCut, which uses all sorts of kind of AI effects depending on what I want from it. And then, I'm mastering it out into, I'm trying to do HDR. So if H.265 was normal, but now I'm using the HEVC format. So I can just get that full, lumen color spectrum, and YouTube handles it. So yeah, I just upload it.
Well, what about you, Roberto?
Well, you could use, for example, the visual analysis in, ChatGPT with the DALL-E 3 to actually, break down the cinematic aspects of a single frame to then understand what settings or what things you would need to do. So you could understand the lighting, the depth of field. You could punch in those settings to a lot of your production equipment. If you wanted to try to recreate a lot of what you're seeing, you could start to understand, tell me and explain to me the color grade that I'm seeing. And so then you could replicate off of that. And you could
wait, let me make sure I understand this. You take a picture,
or
an image, you feed it into DALL-E,
yes,
and you ask it, give me the camera specs that shot this?
Yeah, there's a specific way you'd have to write that prompt, but you can get those things and start to get a sense of, from that single frame, those things that you would want. You could even look at and analyze things like the color grading and try to replicate the settings from the color grading, which a lot of people don't realize that you could do that. And so that could help you a lot when it comes to that. And you could develop your custom LUTs, but then into your camera or into your editor. Because with the Sony cameras, you can actually put the pre-made LUTs in, which means you don't have to do it in post when it comes to your cinematography and the look that you want. So there's that. DJI is using AI to enhance the audio, and there's a setting for that if you're using the latest DJI wireless microphones. So you have that from the production side to enhance audio. You don't just have to do it in post. Adobe's Audio Enhance tool is great. It also exists in the latest version of Premiere Pro, not just the beta anymore. So you have that. There's also with Adobe Express, they're doing a lot of AI things. If anyone here is doing any kind of intellectual products or coursework, for example, or courses, you're just doing talking head, but you did it not against a green screen, but a clean screen, white background, black background, gray background. Adobe Express actually is extraordinarily good when you use a clean background and good lighting for removing it and giving you essentially the feel of green screen, which means for those of you who are developing things that might otherwise look like a lackluster talking head video, you can actually then put something animated or video in the background or so on and so forth. And now, without the effort or technical ability, get very great work as long as the initial production is clean. You can now make this look very, very impressive. And that's not even using the full Adobe suite. That's just using Adobe Express, which is their comparable counterpart to, say, Canva, for example.
Yeah, so Adobe Express also just integrated with Kajabi. So there's an integration between the two. So if you are a Kajabi customer and you are wanting to create some type of course, you can now use AI within Kajabi for a lot of the course functionality that they already have in terms of coming up with course content, but then use Adobe Express to come up with the backgrounds and kind of your set design for your videos.
So, including virtual sets, yes.
Anything more on editing? I mean, we've got a lot to get through in only 10 more minutes, but we talked about Adobe, we talked about Script, we talked about Premiere Pro. What about music editing tools? There's a company called Krotos over there about halfway down that's doing sound effects, that lets you do sound effects and using AI for that. That's really cool. other editing tools in that process when you're sitting down and taking what you shot and want to make it into something beautiful?
Yeah, I'll throw in Runway ML probably deserves a little bit of love too. If you upload a clip to Runway ML, you can either remove the background, and I've done it with very unclean background, and it's worked pretty well. You occasionally might need to put dots on the arms or the fingers or something if it gets a little lost, but it's got tools for that, which are super useful if you just want to remove a background. But also you can upload a static image and animate it with a special prompt. So it's kind of got a couple features there that I like. And then, like I said, that UDO is worth checking out, man. It's like 2-3 days old, but
how do we spell that?
I think just UDIO, all capitals.
UDIO is on my list to look at.
Yeah, and I don't know tons about the company now, but when I saw one prompt in particular, which was to generate a comedy sketch, the joke made sense, and this, I don't know what's happening in the background to make it make so much sense. The laughter in the room sounded like a Netflix special. That's not the kind of audio stuff I saw coming out of Suno before, so, that could be the future.
Yeah, when it comes to audio stuff, I typically use Descript if there's something that I need to clean up the audio, because it's super easy. It's one toggle, so it's one click, and it's called Studio Sound, and it'll go through, analyze your video and analyze the sound from it, and then clean it up. And I think it does a really good job of fixing if there's background noise that you don't want there, but it's also really good at taking audio that already sounds pretty good and making it sound great. And so that's one of my favorite use cases for it.
So I want to talk a little bit about, in the editing, but in the clipping side, because you may edit something up. It's great. It's 20 minutes, but maybe you want to make pieces of it and maybe put it on short form to promote it, or maybe there are other things you want to do. Be remiss if we didn't talk about our friends over there at Opus, who I've been using and I love, and I started working with them a little bit. Roberto, I know you're a big fan. Talk a little bit about how what that can do can help you in sort of the editing, but also post-processing to create clips that you can then use to promote what you do or get more views on what you've already done.
So I am an Opus partner, and they are sponsoring me. You know how we got there? I used everything else and it wasn't great. That's how we got there.
Exactly.
And I used everything else, I paid to use everything else. So I sunk absurd amounts of money into getting to the place that where I'm happy with what I have. And what I'll say about what I find is different about Opus is, and there are things that I'm giving them feedback on. Primary example, in the future, don't swear them to this, but in the future, you're going to be able to not only upload your stuff and be able to clip it, but you're going to have the option to upload it and maybe have the audio enhanced for you, so you don't have to use yet another tool to do that thing to make your workflow better. So the thing is, it's going to be able, if your clips have this or that, that's going to be better. Currently what exists is you can add B-roll, AI B-roll, to your video clips to add more context to them.
It generates the B-roll for you.
Correct, which means from a workflow standpoint, what I can do is I can decide that, all right, instead of just repurposing content I already have, which it's great at, I actually am now moving to using Opus as part of the whole content creation workflow with me as point of origin. And what that looks like is the concept of the fake podcast, which is put myself at an angle as if I were talking to someone like Jim without needing to be there, prompt myself to give something that can be a soundbite or a hot take. And I could sit there, I could do this over and over and do maybe, let's say, an hour-long session like this. This means that I have 50 pieces of my content. Now I don't even need Opus for the clipping portion. Now what I'll use it for is the animated text captions that you see in these clips and the ability to add AI B-roll to it, saving me massive amount of time of editing that I would normally have to do. And so again, in this workflow, now I have a massive amount with like a 60 to 90 minute session, and then Opus doing a very fast turnaround. I now have 50 pieces of content, and now I can take this 50 pieces of content and distribute it across 5 platforms on a schedule to my taste, which means I now turned 90 minutes of work into 250 pieces of content distributed. And that can be done in a day. And the thing is, once I'm the point of origin, if I make a template or workflow, I save my settings for this in Opus, I can even have a VA or a personal assistant do all of the uploading, scheduling, and everything like that, and I just review the final process. So I really can do 250 pieces of content in a day with maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours of work and saturate the market with my brand presence.
All Roberto, all the time. Thank you, Opa.
Everywhere, all at once.
Go ahead,
real
Dylan.
though.
So I'd say like the tool I told you about called Gling, Gling. It's one of the best things about it, cutting out the ums and ahs and the takes that I didn't like, is that you can also make it so that it will punch in with like a wide, a close, or a medium from the same shot. So I'm shooting in a full 8K. I have a Sony Alpha 1, and it seems kind of extreme because I'm just like in my bedroom basically filming, but it does allow the system to do like a tight headshot, a medium shot, and a wide shot. And when it makes these cuts, which normally would be gaps that have to be cut in and cut out, it just saves a ton of time there. So
Cool. Hey, I'm going to go one more thing we're going to talk through here. We'll do a little Q&A. We might go a little long. These guys will be around. I think we may be doing Q&A somewhere around here also. But I want to talk about packaging and analytics. We talk about vidIQ. We talked about Spotter. What other tools are out there that you think are worth mentioning that can help you do things like headlines, descriptions, thumbnails, but also let you look at your analytics, whether it's from YouTube or others, and kind of make sense of all the data that's coming in? Who wants to take that one on?
Yeah, I'll start with that. So this isn't for the faint of heart, but there is amazing tools in OpenAI's API that aren't super complicated to deal with, where you can actually connect an API. So one thing that my friend has done, and he showed me how cool this was, is he has connected his YouTube channel and the entire analytics system into a sandboxed environment, a tiny little piece of server that is untouched by everything else. And he can query ChatGPT to say, go look through all the comments that have ever been made on my channel, look through all the things that you know about the demographics, and give me some tips for how to create a video or something like that. And I don't know of any tool that's put that together. Maybe that could be something like Opus Builds or something in the future, but it can be cobbled together now and is probably coming soon.
There is a tool that's doing something like that. It's called super.fans. You can look into it. I am affiliated with them. You can look into it though.
I was just going to mention them.
Oh, please do.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's a lot of analytics tools out there. I used to work for a company called TubeBuddy. There's vidIQ. There's Spotter. There's YouTube directly. So lots of TubeSpanner, lots of different places you can get analytics. But what I'm really excited about is the companies that are doing something interesting with the analytics in terms of identifying things that you wouldn't normally be able to identify yourself. So Superfans is basically figuring out what products and services you might be able to offer your audience. That isn't really something that the other analytics platforms are really offering. And so I think if you can find those types of companies that are identifying something different.
It's also building out the leaderboard of showing the fan interaction so that you actually know who the top people in your ecosystem that are interacting with your content are, so that maybe you can give them extra rewards, extra attention, and it's giving you more access to directly interface with them. So you could think of it as a content creator's equivalent to a CRM. You could think of it as, instead of a customer relationship management tool, you could think of it as a fan relationship management tool.
Yes, sir. And TikTok has rolled out a tool that they're experimenting with where there's an avatar that sells you products. It gets each person a custom message, and they are starting to measure what kind of messages convert better. So stuff like that's around the corner.
So the thing about Superfans that will go in and look at your comments and things like that and analyze it. Do you guys know of any tools that are helping people manage their communities in general, whether it's on Discord or on YouTube or other things?
There's a lot of tools being built into the platforms themselves. And so there's tools that are being built into YouTube and TikTok. I know Kajabi, I've mentioned Kajabi a few times here, but Kajabi has a community feature, and they also have AI tools that can help on that side as well. And so I think it's mostly being built internally.
I think that community, the best AI tools for community are going to be ones that help you identify patterns, things that you wouldn't otherwise think, because I don't think you can separate the human component from community, or that you can outsource the relationship you have with your community. And I don't think that's even what we should desire from AI. That's why I think it's hard to build AI tools around community. But I think we have to look at AI tools as a way to look at who we're leaving out, who we're missing, also who we can double down on, who, again, are those top interactors. That's why I like about what Superfan is doing, and also even opportunities that you could have to do better. So I think the pattern recognition aspect of AI is vital when it comes to community, but I don't think we can ever do anything to truly outsource that relationship, and I don't think we should desire to.
So Mighty Networks is leaning into this a little bit, worth a look at. Are there any questions out here? We got a question right here. Go ahead, sir.
Can you talk about using 3D avatars either through motion tracking or some other artificial means that you can use within your own videos?
3D avatars, anybody?
The name's not coming to me, but yeah, there are tools that know so much about where your face is positioned, and you can just there's a bunch of deepfake tools. There's live stream deepfake tools. I don't know. Do you know the name of any of them?
Isn't like it HeyGen?
One, yeah, that could be.
Isn't that what? So here's the other thing. It's not quite AI. This one's not quite AI. But this one is the Adobe Character Animate, which is getting better and better. And also with, something that some people may be familiar with here, even called VTubing, where people are creating animated avatars, but they are the performance, and they're doing that both in live and recorded mode. So they're doing that. So it's almost like mocap. So it's a, AI assisted mocap, but the character design, instead of that being fully AI generated, you could get it from an artist. There's a thriving community of artists who are building out the avatars and the puppeteering for you and doing all the animated models and 3D backgrounds and such. So look into Adobe Character Animate for an example.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. I think Adobe Animate is one of the best out there and probably easiest to use. And I have a feeling that you're going to see lots of AI infused in the future.
Another question over here. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so this is for Roberto, and I'm sorry. Stay back this way. I don't want to get feedback. You were speaking of storyboards, and this obviously for anyone, but does anyone have any brass tacks kind of experience boarding out at a professional level, camera crescents, dolly track left, push in, jib up, drone shot, etc., wrap around, the arrows, the descriptions, from a commercial level standpoint of being able to board out?
Commercial level, no, not publicly available, but that is what they are looking to with what they're doing with Sora. Dylan could probably talk more about that than I can, but what we're seeing from Sora is that's where the revolution of that is going to really come from and probably set the gold standard with OpenAI and what they're doing with Sora, from everything I've seen, from all of their demos and from what people in the industry are telling me. So I would look more to that. Right now, what you have in the other tools is going to be cobbled together, and it's going to feel very amateur hour for someone like you.
We have the ability to go till probably about 10 or 15 after 4. Are you guys okay with just doing something?
I'm good.
Yeah.
You guys okay? Anybody wants to leave can leave. Anybody wants their questions answered, stick around. I'm just going to run mic. So go ahead, Pamela.
Thank you. Hi. My biggest question is, when using AI, whether it's video or image creation, is licensing for broadcast, social media, and print and digital. Do you have any Yeah.
Copyright. Take it away, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm not like a lawyer or anything, but Microsoft and Google have made big statements saying that they'll take responsibility for a lot of stuff. So make sure to check out those. It seems like, depending on what country you're in, especially in the EU, it seems like if it's a diffusion model that generated something, there isn't going to be a way to copyright it. So that seems promising for anybody who wants to use it, for commercial purposes.
Anybody else on copyright? I mean, if it creates sorry. Here, go ahead.
If you're an American broadcast?
Yeah, I don't know about having go all the way up.
My thought on this, not a lawyer and everything, but my thought on this is back to what I even said about AI being complementary. Start with the base model of something you own all the rights to, then only use AI for an enhancement. Then it's only a derivative work of your own work, which you have the copyright, trademark, total rights and uses for, which is why I don't believe it eliminates artists. I believe that there's a complementary that can be done here, and I think it's actually the most practical way. That's why I like it for the idea of an enhancement tool rather than a pure generative tool, and I think that shields you the most because you can prove the right to the original base model that was used. Training a model on something you have the rights to already, no one can debate the ethics of.
We'll have a real lawyer here tomorrow at 11:40, by the way, to talk about some of this stuff. I think also the idea is, so far, at least in the U.S., if you create something with AI, it's not copyrightable.
Right. And just to throw a quick thing out there, you know what's bound to happen is that in just a few years, maybe 1 year, there's going to be 1 million Marvel movies uploaded by hundreds and hundreds of regular people. And there's no way that Disney's ever going to be able to police them all. And people are going to build these worlds. So it's just, to me, it's just starting to become an uncopyrightable thing.
They'll also use AI to detect all of the different variations out there.
It's a thief to catch a thief.
Yeah.
There'll be a burden on proof.
Anything more on copyright real quick, Renee? We have more questions here.
Yeah, in terms of copyright, I think at this point, I'm not a lawyer. At this point, though, it does seem like anything that you're using AI to generate, you cannot copyright. But I think that you need to be very careful also when you're creating something for your own company, because you can't have a copyright to it. So if you want to use AI to generate like a logo for your business, know that you're not going to be able to copyright that. So it is an important issue.
Yeah, in that case, you won't be able to trademark it like specific.
Yeah, but even you can't trademark it, but even if someone wants to use an image with that in it.
Oh yeah, no.
The whole image, you won't be able to copy.
All right, another question right here.
First, thank you so much. This was the most valuable session for me because I came specifically to this place for getting better up to speed on AI tools in practical use. So thank you for this session. Second question is, y'all went super fast. Love it. Is there any AI or any kind of script that we can extract some of these names from? Like, yeah, I get that. But where can we get it so that we can get the names of your different tools that you've recommended?
Yeah, maybe talk to you.
We are recording this session. Gigi, Robin, recording it. It'll be up at some point soon. So yeah, we're going to do it. And, we might run it through Opus to try and see what we can clip out of it. It'll be clipped. It'll be done up.
I'll give you guys also, if you follow me on x.com, formerly Twitter, at Roberto Blake, I will be giving you my cliff notes on everything that we discussed today, and you will also be able to follow me in general. And I talk about this at length. And just spoiler alert on one of my secrets is I do my stream of consciousness brain dumps on Twitter, then run it through a prompt I wrote in ChatGPT to make it coherent for me to post in my newsletter and to LinkedIn. And that's how I'm cheating, is I do all of my stream of consciousness brain dump, as incoherent as it might be, and then I make it more tangible and less hyperbolic by using AI to rein me back in.
Yeah, maybe agree with everything you said. Yeah.
Other questions?
Great.
Raise your hand over there.
Hi. So, all of you talk about, writing customized prompts for your workflow. Where do you learn how to write good prompts? Like, what resources are you referring to? Because not all of us are engineers or developers that can write prompts in that type of machine learning languages.
I personally am just making it up as I go to figure out what works well for me. And if I find myself using the same prompts over and over again, then I know to include that in future ones. So, for example, this is a very simple one, but I found just using the prompt, make it sound more natural, works pretty well. And so I have a Google Doc and I just add all of my prompts there and figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, you're right about that question though. There's trial and error, which is certainly a thing. There's some go-tos, which is like, think about what you're saying step by step. There's a lot of, you're this age, you're this kind of a person, you're in this country, this is how you act. You can actually say, it knows someone like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. So if you could say, like, what would Steve Jobs think about this problem, or how would they write something? So you can, one powerful thing you can do is have a group of mentors, right? You can have 5 or 10 people that you want to be like and ask them things and it will know automatically. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not, they say prompt engineering. It's just trial and error. It's getting creative with, familiar with the tool. And I think that this is the kind of skill that's like just everybody who's born today needs to grow up knowing. You just got to get familiar with it. The way we had to right click on mice and understand computers, you have to understand just how to make these agents who you need them to be.
Prompt engineering to some degree comes from a combination because it's a new skill set, but it's derived from an original skill set of either technical writing for anyone who's ever written the scripts for tutorials like I did with Adobe, back in the day throughout my career, or if you've done training in person and you've done training on software or videography or these techniques and so on and so forth, you think about how that dialogue translates and how you explain things. And so it comes from that. Same thing as writing creative briefs. If you bring creative briefs, then that's actually prompt engineering as well. Because remember, all I'm doing is I'm assuming that AI is a human remote worker that I may not have met in person before, and then I'm giving it instructions in much the same manner. So if you've done that with regard to management, leadership, training, hiring, and so on and so forth, then you are a prompt engineer. You just have to get past your thought process of this being a machine tool and think about how would I even explain this to another human being. But what I'll do right now, real quick, is I'll probably give you like 3 to 5 very quick, easy prompts that everyone can use. I'm also going to post these on my Twitter, and I'll probably post 10 free prompts for you on Twitter. If anyone looks me up, they can find out that I actually sell like 100 of my prompts for $9. But
Roberto Blake right here.
Yep, but I'll tell you 5 really simple ones that are like game changing. They're easy. Rewrite this in active voice for blank reading level. All right. So rewrite this in active voice for blank reading level.
For a 5th grader, like we did before.
5th grader, 8th grader, 9th grader, so on and so forth. So that immediately can improve situation. That's one prompt you can use. Here's another one. Rewrite this to be more concise and to have blank character limit. Rewrite this to be more concise and to have blank character limit. The reason you're doing this is you want to account for things like YouTube and such where a title length might be truncated. So you want that. Okay? Rewrite this to be more persuasive and use NLP techniques and do so on a scale of 1 to 5 and make it a blank, which means you can use any number from 1 to 5. Give me 5 variations of this. And that what you're going to use for is you're going to use that to write more persuasively. So this could be for sales language, for a marketing page, could be for your advertising, so on and so forth, so that you have a way to communicate the same thing, but now to use persuasion techniques in terms of language and to use NLP to your, and you don't even have to be a master of this yourself. And now you'll see how that would look. Okay. And then, here's 2 more for you. Another one is if you happen to use the paid version of ChatGPT and you want to import something like a CSV document that has a lot of data, what I would do in that situation is, please analyze the following data that I'm supplying you, and I want you to identify up to 8 relevant patterns that this data demonstrates, and then explain to me how to best properly leverage this data to achieve blank goal. Now that's a super advanced version of a prompt, by the way, but that one is great for data analysis, pattern recognition on large-scale information data. You could, for example, dump all of your YouTube analytics, upload it in this CSV format to ChatGPT, and then do the thing I said, and then it would basically, you could use that to say, oh, I want more subscribers, I want to recreate my best videos, so on and so forth. And then final one that I'm going to give you, a 5th one, is I'm going to give you the list of all of my task for the week or for the month. Here is that list. I need you to help organize these tasks into an Eisenhower matrix for me so that I can be more productive. And basically that will sort by what's important and urgent, what's important but not urgent, what's not important or urgent, so on and so forth. And then that will make you productive. So those are probably 5 of my best simple.
Right, Roberto. How about a round of applause for Roberto on that
Off top of your head too.
I mean, we're our resident AI expert. What'd you think about that, Dylan?
I mean, do you want a few more prompts or you want another?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I want to.
Oh, we can't go for it.
Okay,
Robin's kicking me off stage.
Okay, never mind then.
Just one.
This one, I always say, you're a YouTube growth expert. Help me target specific keywords. Make the list of keywords comma separated so I can use them in my tags, a bunch of stuff like that. But I tell the machine what it is first. And then
Renee, you get one.
So mine is going to be super simple and quick. You can add this on top of any of the ones that they just mentioned. As a follow-up, after you get your response from ChatGPT, just say, make it less generic.
All right. Make it less generic. And this was not, oh wait, Robin's got something to say. Robin's in charge, by the way. All hail Robin.
So for the graphics people, you have to look up, and I'm plugging a book here, Evo Henning, who wrote a book. It's like a workbook called Prompt Craft, and she'll take you through Midjourney, Dolly, and some of the other image editors and show you how to iterate on your prompt, how to start with a macro idea and then get more and more micro as you go on. Prompt Craft. It's really good.
Evo Henning, EVO, and then HENN.
And I would say use the newest version of Claude if you want to learn more of this stuff. I think it's the best way to prompt the other.
Robin, there's nowhere we can steal 5 minutes from Father Time, is there?
That's fine.
All right.
Yeah, we'll be around if you want.
We'll be around.
If you want to
custom. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Roberto, Renee, Dylan. That was amazing. Thank you all for the questions. Thanks for being here.